Good evening and welcome to the board meeting of June 20th, 2024. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I apologize to the two people that are watching online that we're 5 minutes late. We convened the meeting at 6 and had an executive session, and we've just finished. So I apologize for being a little late. Okay, I'm going to open it up for public comment on any of the agenda items. Okay, seeing no public comment, I'm going to move to the consent agenda. Please, Mr. Oliverio.
Resolved upon recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools to approve agenda items 2 through 9 as contained on the consent agenda for this meeting.
Second.
Questions or comments?
I would say consent.
Consent agenda tonight includes the approval of previous meetings minutes, CSC, CPS replacements, approval of unpaid days or some additional hours for staff members and coaches, and includes postseason stipends for track and field coach. It approves of contracts and agreements, two of them specifically, Omni and Pace University, which is an affiliation for placement of graduate and undergraduate teaching candidates as part of their classwork. We're approving the date and time for the organizational meeting of the Board of Education on July 1st at 10 a.m. We're amending tenure areas for two teachers for the upcoming school year. They are taking a leave of absence in their previously approved tenure area, and they are approved seniority now in elementary education. We're amending the 2024 summer worker listing, and we're disposing of textbooks from the middle school that have no value, both in-house and as well to any auction houses. That's it.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Just one comment about the textbooks. I think they were dated 2011, so they were old.
I'm sure some of the information's still accurate.
You're sure?
Not really sure.
No.
Possible.
Possible. Okay, so we're going to move in. Oh, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The resolution passes. Dr. Luft got up. I forgot that I hadn't, well, threw me off. Okay, so. Okay. Expedite away.
Thank you, sir.
Do have connections.
All right, good evening, everyone. So I'd like to begin by stating while I have the opportunity to share this presentation this evening, this is really the culmination of work that involved many individuals, specifically the work of Jill Figuerella, Dave Spittle, as well as members of our Facilities Planning Committee, who I'll acknowledge in a minute, and our architects and financial advisors all participate in this process, which allows us to share this evening what the recommendations are from our Facilities Planning Committee. So just a quick overview of the process that we undertook. The board created a Facilities Planning Committee last school year. The work of that committee has been going on since that time, and the importance of it is that it involves not just our teachers, administrators, and staff, but community members, board members, and really making sure we're getting diverse perspectives from our entire community. Some of the work that was conducted included tours of each of our buildings and grounds. It was actually a fun activity to walk around. If you're a parent of an elementary school age student, maybe you haven't been to the high school or the middle school or vice versa. So that was a great opportunity to walk around and take notes in terms of what we noticed. We reviewed each of our building condition surveys. So the state requires us to maintain active building condition surveys every 5 years. So we reviewed the needs as identified on those. We created an expansive list of potential needs. That's the fun part. You have to spend lots of money, everything that you possibly could think of. But then we went through and started to prioritize what those needs were. We met with a financial advisor who came in and explained what we could afford, which of course forced us back to our list. We had to cross off lots of things that we would love to do, but simply can't afford to do. So we reprioritized based upon what has been our longstanding tradition of proposing facility projects that are tax neutral. So by tax neutral means that we would simply be replacing otherwise expiring debt. So it's not to say that it costs the taxpayers nothing, but it would cost the taxpayers nothing new, nothing that they aren't already paying. That's what we mean by tax neutral. And then that brings us to this evening, where we're presenting what those proposed projects are to the Board of Education, seeking your approval for us to continue our work moving forward. We'll reconvene the committee, we'll work with our architects and start to put together conceptual drawings, budgetary numbers, really working through that process, ultimately seeking voter approval for our proposed projects. The list on the right is an expansive list of all of those involved in the Facilities Planning Committee. There could possibly be more. We started off with an even larger group. Some numbers dwindled throughout the process. We met several times, but there was really a core group that returned over and over again, and I did want to recognize each of them on this slide. So some of the areas in which the committee focused on, we put up poster boards and we had Post-its, and everyone had the opportunity to put Post-its in different categories based upon what they thought was needed in each building, or they also highlighted what they thought was really conducive learning space in each building. So we focused on instructional spaces, including classrooms and SGI small group instructional spaces. That's what the architects call it, so I stole it from them. Utility needs, so that includes HVAC, so our heating and cooling, plumbing, electrical, and geothermal, maybe less exciting for some than others. Infrastructure needs, roofing, bathrooms, drainage, and parking lots. Again, not the most exciting stuff, but important. Health and safety, including lighting, access, sidewalks, pavers, etc. Special area spaces, including music, art, dance, design. We looked at stages, lighting, sound, any other upgrades we needed for the performing arts. And outdoor spaces, athletic fields, our track, our turf, playground, fencing are some of those outdoor educational spaces in which the committee looked at. Just to highlight what some of the recommendations are, I know that we've discussed in past the parking lot and retaining wall here at the high school. So the picture on the left is our beautifully crumbling picture. I have on video Mr. Garcia backed into it, causing that substantial damage. No, I'm kidding. So the wall is 25 years old. There's concerns regarding its original construction and what has happened as it's weathered over the last 25 years. As you can see, you should be careful where you park. We did have an engineer look at it. It's not at risk of failing, like falling on top of cars, but it will continue to erode and at some point no longer be sustainable to hold back the earth that is behind it. You also notice the parking lot has not really been paved, so it's been patched and sealed. Has not been fully paved in the last 25 years. One of the biggest issues we're running into are the drainage basins. So you see here that the ground, in this case, the blacktop has sunk around the drainage basins. In other cases, we've had drainage basins fail. So essentially, the stones or the bricks that hold up the drainage basins fail, and then those collapse. So it creates sort of sinkholes. We obviously deal with those as they emerge. Mr. Spittle and his team are all over that. But we really need to fully mill down the existing parking lot, fix all the drainage basins, fix the drainage, and then repave both the middle school and high school parking lot. So that's one of our first recommendations. We spoke about the turf, track, and fencing. So I know you've seen these pictures before. Our turf is quickly reaching end of its usable life, but we still pass our GMAX testing. So that is essentially the force applied on an individual if they were fall and hit their head. We run the risk, if we go too long without replacing our turf, at some point the turf will fail that GMAX rating and it'll be unusable. We won't be able to use it. So we are looking to replace the existing turf. As you'll notice by the nice sinkhole on the upper right, parts of our track are failing, so we have to fix the drainage and resurface the track. Our fencing is heaving, so this creates a safety issue. There's pieces of it, the fencing that's missing, there's parts that are jagged and sticking out. It's beyond our ability to continually repair it. So really what we need to do is rip out all the existing fencing around the turf, properly install new fencing, and then be able to continue our work. We talked a lot about geothermal and the boilers. The picture on the left is the boiler at the elementary school, affectionately known for its pork chops, so they tell me. So this has been a constant maintenance issue for the district. While I don't have the exact year in which it was installed, it was not recently. And it's getting more and more difficult to find certified professionals to even maintain this for us or repair it in the case that issues break. So we know that this is something on our horizon. This is something that exists in our 5-year plan. We have to find a replacement. Replacements for this boiler range between $1 and $2 million just to replace it. We have 2 of them. And obviously the district's investment in geothermal is a common sense solution moving forward. So for those maybe not unaware, the entire middle school, high school campus that we are currently on runs on geothermal heating and cooling. This is never more evident than it has been the last week as we enjoy central air throughout our buildings. Well, I get pictures from colleagues of 90+ degree temperatures in their classrooms. So the common sense solution would be to continue our integration of the elementary school to geothermal. Currently about 33% of the building runs on geothermal. So one of our proposals is to expand that and to remove the elementary school's dependence on fossil fuels for heating and use our entirety of our potential geothermal to heat and cool the elementary school. And obviously that's in line with the district's sustainability and our commitment to clean energy. Another interesting fact is that currently the government has this Inflation Reduction Act. So while we would have to expend the money up front, our hope is that we can get up to $2 million of that money back from the federal government through the Inflation Reduction Act. So that's something that while we can't budget for that up front, it's something that we hope to be able to replace money that we take from our capital reserves and use towards future projects. So nursing suite and library, I am positive that I once slept on each of those cots in the nurse's office. I won't tell you what year it was, but it was a long time ago. But those are definitely as old as I am. The nurse's suite has been wallpapered and painted over, I think 27 times at last peeling. You could peel back different colors each year, see what it used to be. So this space is in desperate need of a facelift. There is no fresh air. There was a window that someone boarded up. No one here was responsible for that boarding of that window. But we would like to get some natural light in there. We'd like to get some more fresh air in there. We'd like to create an isolation space. And it's really a space that's sorely in need of an upgrade and something that I would like to get done. The other piece is really just an opportunity. Our elementary school library is a beautiful space. And it's a large space, but it's maybe not the most conducive space to learning. And while our middle school and high school libraries have been revamped over the years to make them a modern, innovative learning space, that same upgrade has not happened at our elementary school. And I think this is a great opportunity to transform that space into a more modern learning space, a space that teachers can bring their classes to, as well as a space that obviously is used for circulation of books. Elementary school playground, this is really specific to primary grades as well as some students with disabilities. I think we still call it the big toy, even though it's not really even a big toy anymore, is it?
No.
Or is that just me, because I'm old and I went to school? It was the big toy when I was there. So while the playground that's currently out there is fostered many third and fourth graders, bruises and broken bones, it's not really as conducive to kindergarten, first and second grade students. So what our hope is to build a primary aged playground next to the current one and really offer a more suitable space for younger students as well as students with special needs to access that playground. Then some of the additional work, maybe not deserving of fancy pictures. So as many know, we were able to support the replacement of the curved roofs here at the high school. We did that with district funds without needing to bond any of that money. but that leaves the flat roof portion of the work to be done. The flat roofs sit above the educational wings, the classroom wings, so that work would be completed. We would actually have to remove the solar panels that are currently on those roofs in order to replace the roofing and then reposition the solar panels. Drainage work, as everybody knows, a river runs through our parking lot. Now that the property adjacent to ours has been devastated in terms of deforestation of old growth trees, we expect that drainage issue to only be exacerbated. So we're in desperate need of more drainage work in order to curtail the water that's currently flowing through our campus, as well as the water that will soon be flowing through our campus, thanks to the solar farm next door. Classroom renovations, really a big piece of this is repurposing the middle school all room. This is something we looked at during our last facilities project and simply fell out as a priority at the end. But the idea is to create that space into a more conducive learning space for small group instruction as well as offices, and that in turn will free up classroom spaces on the exterior of the building to be used for large group instruction. And accessibility, we're looking at ways to make our athletic facilities more accessible. We're looking at ways to make the courtyard here at the high school more accessible. While Mr. Spittle and his team have done a fantastic job to create that space out there, it's not exactly handicap accessible or accessible to many. So we want to make sure that we're looking to put pavers in there and make that something that's more sustainable and accessible for all of our students and staff. Now looking at the numbers. So you'll notice EST is on every one of these pages because all of these are estimates. These numbers will certainly shift over time, but we have to start somewhere. So everything that I had explained is based upon an estimated budget of approximately $13 million. If the district uses $3.5 million of reserves, so this is both debt service money that would be freed up as well as capital reserve monies, we would look and we would realize $8.7 million in building aid back on that $13 million expenditure. So the district currently gets 67% of our money back from the state in terms of building aid over the course of financing. So of that $13.8 million, $8.7 million of it would come back from the state to the school district over time. And the most important piece on here is the 0% in the upper right. That's the increase cost to taxpayers in order to accomplish all of this work. So if we break that down a little further, we're looking at a $13 million project. $12.2 million of that come back in the terms of either capital reserve money that would be spent up front or state aid money that would come back in the long run, which actually makes the entire cost of, of the project approximately $800,000 is what's left after state aid and our capital reserves are used. That's pretty good math, right? Mm-hmm. Did you check it? No. All right, so our plan to accomplish this work happens in two phases. Phase one of the project is utilizing district monies. So we budgeted next year for the first part of this, and we'll budget for the second phase of it, the second part of the first phase next year. And this is to start the work on the turf, track, and fencing. We don't need to bond this money. This is going to be supported with district funds. Therefore, we do not need voter approval. There'll be no impact on the taxpayers, again, because we're using monies that have already been collected. And the start date for this work is estimated to be next spring, the May of '25, with the hopes of completing it for the fall athletic season, September of '25. So that's phase one. Phase two is the larger piece of this work, includes our parking lots, infrastructure, classrooms, nurses suite. Voter approval would be needed. This money would replace expiring debt, so there would be no impact on the taxpayers. Our hope would be to vote in the winter of '25. We'd bid that project in the winter of '26. It takes almost a year for us to get all the drawings created and then up to the state for their approval. And then with hopes of starting that work in the summer of '26 and completing it in the fall of '27. So we would do that work obviously in two phases over 2 summers, and that timeline coincides with when debt is falling off of our coffers. So again, just a quick look at the timeline. Phase one We're looking to get approval from New York State before next spring, with work beginning in May through September. Phase 2, before the vote, we would develop our scope, share some of the design drawings, collect feedback from the community, implement any possible revisions before finally voting. The bidding process, we first need New York State Education Department approval. We need to get that information out to possible vendors. We need to post our bid, open it, and then award it to the lowest responsible bidder. And then the final phase is the construction phase, where we order materials, we create staging areas, contain the work zone, and then our start and completion dates. So why now? The first piece, obviously we know that New York State currently offers Putnam Valley 67% of, sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. So stable debt service. If we replace existing debt, there's no new cost to the taxpayers. It helps minimize fluctuations, right? If we don't do the roof proactively and it fails, now we have to reactively find monies to replace that roof. It's going to be far more expensive and create fluctuations in our budget. Long-term facility planning, we want to align what these needs are with our building condition surveys to make sure that we prevent against creating emergency repairs. Anytime we put the word emergency in front of anything, the cost is going to escalate. So again, we want to make these repairs and upgrades before it's too late. We continue to see escalating costs of utilities. The idea of having an entire school district that is not reliant on fossil fuels for heating would be a tremendous thing for the Putnam Valley community, and obviously save great deals of money that ultimately come from taxpayers over time. We currently know that we get 67% of these funds back from New York State. This is every budget cycle a topic of conversation at the state level. There has been threats to reduce this or put caps on it at the state level for many years. While that has not yet been successful, there's certainly no guarantee that it won't one day in the future be successful. And I would much rather accomplish this work when I know we're getting 67% of the monies back, as opposed to 5 years down the road where maybe we get 40% of that money back from New York State. Construction costs, all of our architects and other professionals realize they continually bidding out projects. Inflation in the current job market continuing to push construction costs higher. So there's no reason to think that trend is going to stop. The same is true about materials. With the inflationary factors, the cost of materials continues to rise as we can now start talking about tariffs and other factors that, again, could increase the cost of materials over time. As I mentioned before, one of the biggest pieces is the entire project can be done tax neutral, replacing existing debt and not costing taxpayers additional monies. And it prevents against fluctuations in the tax levy that would inevitably happen if we were forced to make emergency repairs to our buildings. And that's it. Questions from myself? I know Mr. Spittle's here. We can call Jill on the phone, ask her if we have a question. No, Nellie's here, one of our committee members.
So the geothermal would be, it went ahead for the elementary school, would be more than 2028, 2029 years?
So the geothermal, the question was about the timing of the geothermal. The geothermal work would start with everything else likely in the summer of '26. I can't say whether it would be done that first summer or the second. We haven't done that level of phasing. The good part about that work is we've already sized the main line going into the building for expansion, so they don't have to dig up and replace any of the current infrastructure that exists. So really that work involves drilling new wells and connecting that to the existing infrastructure, as well as HVAC work that has to happen inside the building. But the good part is those things can happen simultaneously as well. Thank you. Any other questions?
Just in an ideal time frame, when do you expect beginning to end, total for everything?
Construction-wise? So the plan is to start the first phase of the construction, the part that's funded through district funds, in May of '25, and ultimately completing the bonded part of the work, assuming we get voter approval, would be in the fall of 27. So you're looking at a 2-year window for 3 summers. For some reason in construction, we measure everything in summers. So the summer of 25, the summer of 26, and then the summer of 27 would be the completion of the work. Right now, right? If something comes out, if we have a contractor who says I could do it all in the summer of 26, we certainly would embrace that, but we're just trying to provide as much flexibility as we can. Because at the end of the day, we have to make sure we can reopen schools. Dave gets a little anxious when there's an excavator in the cafeteria in the middle of August, digging holes. They somehow put it all back together before school opens.
And as you said, upon budget approval, or upon voter approval.
Absolutely. So really the work of the committee, assuming we get the board's blessing to move forward, the work of the committee really turns to how do we get this information out to the community? How do we educate the community? How do we make sure they understand what this is, why we're doing it, how it would all work, and to really make sure accurate information is out there so individuals, whenever that vote date comes up, have the opportunity to make an informed decision regarding sort of maintenance of our school buildings, just like every homeowner in Putnam Valley has to maintain their own properties.
That was going to be, that was going to be a part of my question, was just how will the community get the ins and outs of the projects, all the information they're seeking, and I think it would be good to do that earlier rather than later, because I think people need to mull it over. It should be a topic of conversation. It involves our community. It involves, our value as a community, right, with the things that are being added to our schools. And then just lastly, I wanted to point out that $3.5 million from reserve funds is exactly the reason why we needed a new reserve fund, to be able to have an offset to projects like this, so that there's really a very minimal implication to the taxpayer, regardless of whether they have children in the schools or not. So I think it was very wise of us for us to do that as a community. So thank you to everybody who voted in favor of that. And it's wonderful to know that there were so many people on that committee that come from different walks of life to be able to, put their opinions forth and be able to voice their concerns about what projects needed to be done, because that level of a committee really signifies the commitment that our community has for these particular projects. So thank you to everybody who served on the committee.
Thank you. So if we take that $3.5 million, which is obviously paid up front, we don't pay interest on that over the course of the project, right? That changes this last number from $800,000 to $4.3 million. That would be funded directly by our taxpayers. And the reality is, while it's still $4.3 million, we could actually do less work, because part of that $4.3 million is all the interest we now have to pay on that money. So not only would that last slide change to $4.3 million, chunks of the projects would have come out because we would no longer be able to afford them.
Yeah.
Unlike homeowners, this is something that came up, and then I'll get back to your first question. Unlike any homeowner who sees cost overruns or municipal projects hit cost overruns all the time, that's really not an option for school districts. We don't have a contingency for cost overruns. It's why the bidding process works the way it does. We bid out a project, so we get a number before the work begins. There is no option for cost over. Obviously, we figure in there's change orders and there's things that have to happen, but a $13 million project cannot become a $15 million project. We have no means to pay that extra money, nor do we have voter approval to pay that extra money.
Right.
So $13 million means $13 million. And it's why the contractors are held to that number. It's why we know that number before the work starts. And if they underestimated how much things were going to cost them, shame on them. That's unfortunately how the system works. So it's not, we always run into fears of 13 will really become 20. Like I'm guaranteed to hear that while we're trying to inform the community about this. But the reality is it can't. Like legally, 13 cannot become 20 because I don't have voter approval to spend $20 million, nor do I have $7 million in my pocket to pay the difference.
The bottom line is that the district has pursued these type of projects before. The newest addition at the elementary school,
right.
our health and wellness center, and the renovation of the middle school itself, a lot of the cafeteria and the building structures, all those things were within budget.
Yep.
They have to be, as you said, because that's what the voters vote on, and it can't be changed. So just by that historical precedent, we can certainly rest assured that this project will follow that same path.
Yeah. Back to Crystal's first point. So I think we had a very successful facilities project. Sort of, and actually the project, the construction phase happened during COVID, ironically. But I would really follow or mimic what we did for that project. Yeah. We did a ton of community outreach. We created sort of one-page flyers. We created an informational video.
Great.
We held Q&A sessions. I would really go back and work with our facilities planning committee to replicate much of what we did for the last project. One, it was successful. Two, I thought it was very informative, and we got good feedback from it. So we would really look to replicate what we did last time.
What was the passing rate for that last project as far as voter approval?
It was not 80 to 20, like I would like
Okay.
to say.
So,
I'm going to look at you like you have it memorized. I have the
I think it
facilities
was,
project.
About 60-40.
I was going to say, it
recall.
was pretty... Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it went over very well.
Yeah, I was going to say 58, 42 maybe, but it was somewhere around there. Don't quote me on that. Maureen's going to look it up now. Any other questions?
61, something like that.
Anybody got any questions for Dave? I can make him answer them.
The
All right.
buildings look great, Dave.
So obviously this is really the kickoff. This is the starting point. Our goal is we'll start to gather information over the summer. Oh, the summer is not a great time to communicate this. I don't want the belief to be sort of we're trying to sneak this in. So really what our goal is to really ramp up our communication when schools reopen in the fall and really use that fall time frame. Everyone's back at school, re-engaged in the school community, and that's really a prime time for us to start getting this information out there. So we'll work behind the scenes over the summer and really look for a public push starting in the fall. And as those who were around last project will realize, it's entirely possible that the scope of this project changes as we get feedback throughout the process. From our first proposal with the board last time to what we actually ended up building was vastly different. There was tremendous changes that were made in the scope of the project throughout that process. So this is what's recommended by the committee now, and obviously pending feedback from our community, pieces could stay, new pieces could be added, or the whole project could be changed. So, first iteration. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't want to do this part because this is our last student representatives report from these three students, but I'm going to let you go.
We have about 3 things, so I'll make this very short, don't worry. Testing is almost done except for one part of a specific IB course. And so as of today, all of the students are very excited to be officially beginning their summers, as are we very soon. And this is just a little thing. With this being our last Board of Education meeting, I would like to say on behalf of the 3 of us that we are very grateful for the privilege we have had to hold this position and to speak on behalf of the vast student population. And we are very grateful to have served our community, so thank you for that. And finally, we would just like to say congratulations to all of our fellow seniors as well as ourselves who will be graduating tomorrow. And if you do not have a ticket to the graduation, you can tune in to watch the live stream at pvcsd.org. Yeah. And so that's all we have today.
Thank you. I have to say, you 3 have been such a joy to work with this year. It's not easy to give your opinion, your thoughts, your reflections. You've done that graciously and willingly. You've shared your thoughts and ideas, and it's given us a clearer vision of what we need to do as a board. And so there's just no way we can thank you for this year. It's just been amazing, so.
Yeah. Just a great group of young people, really, and it's been an honor and a privilege to work with you 3, and I mean that sincerely. Thank you.
They say if you want to find something to get done, you have to look for a busy person who will do it. And so The three of you are probably the most busy people I know, and yet you still came to board meetings whenever you possibly could. It was really important to you, and that was really important to us. So thank you so very much for adding value to our team here.
Yeah.
Thank you for being so talented and for entertaining us at times. Wish you all the best in the future.
Yeah.
One thing I've enjoyed, I've always, of course, enjoyed you guys, your participation in these meetings, as well your presentation and your input. I've also enjoyed seeing you outside of this building, your different activities, your presentations, your theaters, your
theater.
research, like everything. You're well-rounded
Concert.
individuals, and you're going to do a lot going forward, and we're very proud of you guys, and thank you for all that you brought to us.
Thank you.
So, is there anything we could have done to make it better for you? For the next, I see Aiden out in there, he's going to be one of our representatives next year. Like seriously, if we wanted to make this better, like is there a way, I know that when the Westchester Putnam School Boards Association met and they had student representatives, none of you could go because we had the IB dinner that night. But they had some suggestions for how to make you more a part of the team. Like some of it was that you meet with either the board president or the superintendent on a more frequent basis, you know, to kind of get caught up with things behind the scene or whatever. Just, do you have any suggestions for us?
I think just in general, like being in this position has opened my mind to so many things that are going on, and I think it's really important to be aware of things that are happening in your community. Even though we graduate, we're not in middle school or elementary school anymore, it's so cool to see all the updates that are going on there, all the new programs that they have, and I think moving forward we should always strive to get more youth representation and more people that are, obviously people don't come to the meetings, but I think that it would really benefit a lot of people if they were aware of what was going on, and they know that they can always, bring things up and just educate themselves. They're always welcome, but I think the same thing with the voting and stuff. You always want a better youth representation there, and I think advertising to them more and I don't know, just explaining to them, they can come here. They are. Their education is kind of in their hands. If they want to get involved, they have to take that step, and they're always welcome to come here, and
How might we do that? How might we get that word out to them?
I don't know.
That may have to be something with maybe with other teachers, teacher participation in encouraging students to attend these meetings, especially around the time of the election, or if there's a very important, though it may be sometimes be a little bit boring, budget meeting, okay, but there are decisions being made there, such as the track, which is something that affects hundreds of students throughout the year. So that is something that just encouraging possibly teachers to reach out to students more often and display how various decisions, not necessarily every decision, is directly involved to the student, and how these decisions are not something that's happening eventually, that's happening now. These discussions are happening in the moment, and you're missing out on that discussion. Yeah.
All right. I don't know if y'all post on social media or anything, but even emails. I know that a lot of the freshmen and sophomores don't check their emails, but juniors and seniors for the most part check their emails a little more because we are getting emails. And so maybe through email, you could send out mass emails saying what we're talking about, what would maybe be important for students to learn about, maybe something along those lines to get more.
What do you think about if I talk to Mr. Mello about going to a student government meeting and giving the board perspective? Just to kind of push that out there, and so that people realize what we're doing. When I was in school, I didn't even know that there was such thing as a Board of Education. Because it just wasn't kind of on my radar.
I think like with opportunities like this, like that we've had, you can like really understand like you have to be the change that you want to see. You have to use your voice to make change and speak for a bigger population of students and represent them in a good way. And just know that like if there's something you have a problem with or you want to change, like you can bring it to, there's so many people here in this community that can help you out. And I think that we should encourage our students to be the change that they want to see in school and get involved in things like this.
Yeah. That's
So.
a good idea,
Okay.
to
Yep.
go before,
Student council or-
right,
Yeah.
student government and things.
Yeah, I think
and
student
talk
government's a
about it.
good
Just big,
audience to go to.
okay.
Just a board
Aiden,
event.
anything we could have done to make your transition onto the board better? They dragged you in, huh? You had the short straw? No. I think sometimes you three did not realize how valuable your input was to us. And maybe we didn't make that clear enough in enough ways. Because really hearing your perspective was really sometimes eye-opening. Sometimes like, oh yeah, I never thought of it that way. Because I'm sitting on I'm sitting in a different spot than you are. So, okay.
What about start time? Is it good, 7 o'clock? I'm sorry. Students are busy. They're very busy.
Charlie
So-
already warned us what would happen if we started
I
early.
think that don't even. I think we spent more time talking about start time than the minutes we would have made up starting earlier or later.
Well, what do you
That's a
think?
perspective.
I
right
think
there.
that
Is 7 o'clock still
I
good?
think that 7 o'clock at least for the high school, is a great start time for all concerts. It's all the same. I think 7 is a good time because like for sports ending and rehearsals and parents getting off of work, I think 7 is good.
What do you think about a 5 a.m. start time?
Yeah.
Is that good?
Well, there it is.
Maybe if that is bad, then maybe you can figure out like timing of like presentations and stuff. Because I know like it's been different. Like some meetings are like a couple and others are shorter. So if you like,
Right.
I know, it varies.
if
It
time
does.
is really a
Balancing
big,
it out.
yes,
Yeah.
balance is important.
Yeah.
Good ideas. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Dr. Luff, did they steal your thunder?
Yes,
Oh,
well, I was
I-
actually going to talk about them, but
You did a great, your walk through the elementary school was amazing.
Oh, yeah, that was-
You know,
that was neat.
I appreciate you doing that. Somebody said, but you don't even have any kids that are still, none of the students that were walking were any of the students that I had, but they're all our students, so
That's right.
it was great to see you guys there.
That's right.
All right, go ahead.
So I did want to also take in time to acknowledge our 3 board reps and thank them for their time and their insight. I don't know that we've ever had 3 such well-rounded board representatives at the same time through
No
arts,
pressure, Aiden.
athletics, and academics. And having individuals that participate and excel in all 3 of those is a pretty special thing. So I've enjoyed their insight during the meetings, except for when Garcia called me a senior citizen. But I also enjoyed.
He just asked me if he should insult you.
And
I figured-
I chose not to.
I want to
so-
remind you that you have not yet received your diploma. No, it's all. I actually, one of the things that I'll miss most is our opportunities to sort of joke around and banter. And I have to say that each of them at a time has been cornered by me in a hallway and asked a question or just a perspective to get some more insight on what's going on. And I think that they've been a tremendous and valuable voice for our students. And I look forward to seeing all the amazing things they go on to do. I will offer the naming rights to a corner of the cafeteria to Garcia's Goods for the right cost, if you're interested. You did once pitch your private business during a public board meeting, which I'm pretty sure was violated like 10 laws, but
Reese told me to do it.
No, I wasn't even here.
I hope business picked up afterwards. You have to work on your gluten-free options for me, though, so I can participate. But again, I know that as the board has already spoken, And on behalf of the entire district, we're all very grateful for the time you guys have volunteered, and you will leave Putnam Valley a better place because of your insights. So thank you all very much. So some of the other happenings. Our high school had all their academic awards, freshmen, juniors, and sophomores. Senior awards happened before the last meeting. We had our last day of the elementary school sustainability fair, where I get to fire the t-shirt cannon into the air. That's a highlight for me. It's always 95 degrees out for some reason, though. We had our Hall of Fame and Sports induction awards. I do want to take a moment to acknowledge the work that Mr. Kanchowitz has put into the creation and cultivation of that. Now in our second year, we had our sports awards. I want to acknowledge that several coaches actually during their time allotted to present awards to their student athletes actually took the time to thank Dave for all that he has done for our sports and athletics. So I do want to acknowledge that work is something that came about during his interview process, and it came to fruition thanks to all those involved. Our senior class had our walkthrough of the elementary school. That's always a very exciting day for everyone. We had our NCAA signing, our incoming freshman parent orientation, a field day at the elementary school, and our elementary school haiku poetry event today. Me and Martine wrote a mean haiku about soccer. Some updates. I hope that the board had the opportunity to meet with our prospective athletic director before this meeting, and I hope he'll be appointed shortly. Our high school graduation, so my quick PSA, is after meeting today, the word is there's no word. So we are continuing with plans to hold the ceremony outdoors, but we are able and willing to quickly pivot indoors if necessary. Yeah. So it is fully my expectation that graduation will occur tomorrow beginning at 7 p.m. Whether that be outdoors or indoors is to be determined, but it is outdoors at this immediate time. For anyone who's concerned about the heat or the pending inclement weather, the Performing Arts Center will be open. The event will be live streamed into there, and the air conditioning will be pumping. In the event that graduation is moved indoors, will likely mean that there is pending inclement weather. We don't really want to be out there during a hailstorm or anything. So if that happens, the graduation will take place in the PAC. Overflow will be, the event will be live streamed into here, onto the screen before us. Blue tickets will get individuals into the Performing Arts Center. White tickets will get individuals into the cafeteria here. So we obviously can't accommodate as many guests per graduate indoors as we can outdoors. So that'll obviously all be communicated tomorrow, but that's where we stand as of whatever time it is right now, 7:52 p.m. on the 20th. Our district safety committee met on 6/18. We reviewed revisions as recommended by our security consultants, Alteris Consulting, and that plan will be available for public comment for 30 days, and a public hearing will be held on August 22nd here in the high school cafeteria. Our coming up events, we're winding down. As we mentioned, graduation is tomorrow, rain or shine. Elementary school moving up and middle school moving up ceremonies are both scheduled for Monday the 24th. And the Future of Education meeting, oh, it's a shout out for Jackie, is on June 25th. Putnam Valley will also be hosting the Regional Leadership Institute the first week in July, or second week in July, which will bring nearly 200 educators from across the region to our beautiful facilities here at Putnam Valley High School. And that event always culminates with great feedback from participants from across the region about the shape of our facilities, the cleanliness of our facilities, and sort of the innovative opportunities they have here for their learning. And other than the fact we are fortunate to have air conditioning, I think that's all I have right now. Oh, and half days next week. Elementary school has half days on the 25th and 26th. It's Tuesday and Wednesday, and middle school has a half day on the Wednesday. I do want to also recognize, I know Aiden is here, but Haley Cron is our other student rep for next year. We anticipate bringing on a third early in the fall, but I did want to recognize, I invited Aiden to participate, and he's here this evening, so I do want to recognize him, and we're looking forward to welcoming them on to the Board of Education next year. So thank you all.
Okay, new business. Number 1, please.
Resolved on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, the Board of Education hereby appoints Robert S. Webb as the Director of Physical Education, Athletics, and Health Services in the 10-year area of Director of Physical Education, Athletics, and Health Services to serve a 4-year probationary term effective July 22nd, 2024 through July 21st, 2028 at the annual salary of $155,000 prorated. Mr. Webb holds the following New York State certifications: School District Leader, Professional School Building Leader Initial, Physical Education, Professional, and Health Education Professional certifications.
Second.
Questions or comments?
I do want to recognize that Mr. Webb is here with us this evening. He emerged through a very competitive interview process. We had nearly 50 applicants. I know we screened in person 12 individuals, and then 3 finalists came forward to a large committee interview, including students, staff, community members, board members, and Mr. Webb continued to impress throughout the interview process, and we are very thankful that he made a commitment in us as we made in him, and looking forward to seeing all the great things he will do for us here in Putnam Valley. So thank you.
Congratulations.
All in favor?
Oh, aye. All in
Aye.
favor.
Aye.
All opposed?
Come on up.
Welcome aboard.
You didn't tell him he had to give a speech?
No, wait, I'm shaking. He'll make one, though.
Huh?
I said he'll make one.
I'm sure you will.
First test is not tripping on anything.
Welcome. Booby trapping.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome so much. We're glad to have you.
Number 2, please.
1 second. Yep. Resolved on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools to appoint Michael Diamore to a probationary appointment of Office Assistant effective July 1st, 2024, with a probationary period of 52 weeks, June 30th, 2025, at the district office on Step 1 of the CSEA salary schedule.
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The resolution passes. Number 3, please.
Resolved on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools to accept a generous donation in the amount of $46,295.68 from the Putnam Valley Education Foundation.
Second.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, are they liquidating? That's a lot of money, all at one shot, you know? I really.
It should have stated very generous donation.
It is an extremely generous donation.
Thank you to
That's what,
PVF.
I mean, I don't ever remember the district receiving such a large sum at any one time.
So while I can't speak to their specific finances, I can say that it's certainly not all of the money, but probably a majority of the money in which they have.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be more thankful for, we had the opportunity to meet with the leaders of the Education Foundation. It's been Christine and Nina for the last couple of years, and we have an opportunity to review each of the applications that were submitted, as well as I think the big difference is they've made the commitment to contribute to some district-wide initiatives on top of the building or individual teacher initiatives that they typically get financing for. One of the big pieces that I had requested and they graciously awarded was each year we struggle to make sure that field trips are affordable for all students. And one of the things they created was essentially a field trip scholarship fund. So as we become aware of individual students that may like to participate in a field trip and may not have the means to pay for that field trip, it's very difficult for the school to use taxpayer money to do that.
understand.
We legally can't. But so this creates a fund specific for that purpose.
Well, I
So
think
we're
that-
able to essentially sponsor students to participate in learning activities with their peers.
That's outstanding.
So that's a big chunk of the money, as well as other district initiatives that they graciously supported. So I know that we'll be welcoming some new leadership to the Education Foundation, and we look forward to continue to work closely with them. It's a volunteer organization, and every penny they raise gets donated back to the school district, and I can't think of a more worthy cause for our community members to help support.
Agree.
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The resolution passes. Number 4, please.
Resolved on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools to accept the internal audit report on extra classroom activity funds performed by Nugent Hausler and the district management's response corrective action plan as per document number 195-24 attached to the agenda and official minutes of this meeting.
Second?
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The resolution passes. I'd like to open it up now to the public to speak on any topic.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Joe Ferraro. A few quick questions and then a number of comments. I just was wondering if you had updated numbers for the number of Garrison students that will be coming to the district next year.
So we expect to welcome 13 new students, as well as 2 remaining students. So 15 students is our expectation for next year.
Excellent. As a corollary to what you were just talking about with the trips, I think it would be great for the board as well as the community to get some sort of student feedback or report on their DC trip. I mean, we've reinstated the DC trip. It'd be great for the people outside of the number of students that went and their families, but for the community to kind of see what's the benefit of what they're learning and doing that trip that has been, lost for decades and now is back. I think it'd be a great thing for the community to see.
Do you know anyone who would be interested in doing that, Crystal?
I have lots of pictures and I have lots of testimonials that we could, bring to the table for that. It was a tremendous experience for not only my child, but for my family. And I think that is a great point. And I think the community having an understanding visually of what kids really experienced while they were there, it's tremendous. I'm sorry to say that it was my first time visiting Washington, D.C. And knowing that my child was now doing that way earlier than I had in life, it just set a tone for our family as American citizens. And I think that that's really important, and I think we should do that.
I mean, it's an awesome and awe-inspiring, the buildings, the monuments, just the scope of what it and all it represents. Yes, our kids and our families, most have been in New York City, you see big buildings. It's not the same thing.
It's not.
I mean, DC is an amazingly gorgeous place, and the historical aspect of it is amazing. I think it'd be really important for student feedback on what they felt and how they learned. They can work with their teachers and everything, but I think it's important. And that should be the case, I think, for most of our larger trips, that we get feedback, even if it's Madden or something else like that. It's just more of the student report that comes from not just, no insult intended, not just from high school students, because, eyeballs also, and people fit in the seats when you've got little younger students telling him their story. I want to thank Helen. This is your last meeting, Helen. And I want to thank you. You stepped up when you needed. I appreciate your service. Particularly, I appreciated your, let's say, straightforward candidness, particularly in executive session. I wanted to thank you for your service and your time. I really appreciated working with you, and fun to watch you work.
Thank you.
And I want to thank David Spittle, his entire maintenance team. I walked in front door, the flowers are gorgeous. Walked in the front door, and what struck me is the building looks as shiny and beautiful as for graduation as it did for the first day of school. And so kudos to your team, to you and your team. These buildings are always awesome looking. And lastly, I thought Jill would be here, and I'm sorry I missed her. I want to publicly thank her for her service to the district and believe that our district and our community as a whole is better for her service to our school district and our community. So that's just on the record. Thank you, Jill. And I'm done.
Thanks.
Thank you, Joe.
Any other comments? Okay. Upcoming meetings, we have July 1st is our reorganization meeting at 10, right, Maureen? That's what you said?
Yes.
Okay. Here?
And
Here in this
Okay.
cafeteria, 10 a.m. here.
Okay, thank you.
And then we don't have a July board meeting, or we do?
Nope, the next
have
meeting
one in
after that is
August.
scheduled for August 22nd,
We have the retreat, though.
We
We
have
have a
a
retreat.
Right,
Yeah.
in the middle of July.
July
17th.
17th, yes.
17th, July 17th at 3 p.m.
Okay, board member discussions. First of all, Guy Cohen sent a note because he thought Jill would also be here. So we said we would read it. So Guy says, on behalf of the Putnam Valley community, I want to thank Jill for years of dedicated service to our educational community. She ensured, along with the administrative team, that we had sufficient funds to maximize our children's educational experience. We hope and pray that she and her family know only peace, health, happiness, and joy. You will be truly missed. Guy Cohen. That was very nice. And Helen is going to be, I hope she doesn't tell me what she really thinks. So the Westchester Putnam School Boards Association is honored to recognize Helen Horowitz, whose support of public education and commitment to educational excellence has enhanced the quality of education for all the students in the district. And it's signed by Dr. Love and Karen Balaje. So, thank you. At home. Okay, any other board comments?
Yeah, as you know, I distributed 3 various letters recently to all the board members. The first one was, we had a draft of my request that the board contact the Department of Education in Albany about teacher recruitment and the way we can do that. I incorporated the ideas that were presented to me at the last board meeting, and Jeanette, I can incorporate your idea of having a certain amount of time that these teachers would be asked to serve in a capacity within New York State as an educator. But I'd like to get that letter out fairly quickly. So you all have a copy of it. I'll add Jeanette's thing, send it in. I really would like to do it before the start of school. We have it, we'll put it in proper form if possible. I think it is our due diligence, especially with the impending teacher crisis, to let the state know that we're aware of it, and we hope they take some remedial actions. So that, to be continued, but I'd like to finalize this as quickly as possible. The next letter I send out, I think, will be the final one, and if that's okay, we can get it in proper format if everybody agrees. Secondly, I had written the board about some suggestions that the Director of Building and Grounds and Transportation, David Spittle, gave us concerning this devastation out here. Yorktown sends its foothill water right into our yard. I viewed the pipe. It's enormous. It dumps tons of rainwater every time there's precipitation in this area on our property. I would like the board to consider sending a letter to Yorktown, asking them to be a good neighbor, to divert that pipe to the holding pond that they're creating right here with the devastation. It's an output for their water that they're going to create with those solar panels, and according to David, they can easily do that. Break into the line that's currently there and just direct it right down to the holding pond. Secondly, request that Yorktown build a buffer of fast-growing pines between their property and ours. They're ignoring us, and we need to take some proactive measures to correct this mess that they put on that hill. So if you can consider that, I can put a letter together again. You have the outline of what's needed. David certainly is a great resource. I walked the area with him. The explanation is very simple to fix both the water problem and the buffer. So, again, I asked the board to consider that, and I'd like to wrap that up before the start of school. And thirdly, I'm
Oh,
concerned.
Wait,
Yeah.
before we leave that, just, we did, when we met with the people from the town of Yorktown, they did say they were going to put trees.
No.
or-
So the trees on their final plans are along between
Foothill.
Foothill and the solar farm.
Okay.
They deforested every tree right up to the property line.
Exactly.
And there's, in their current plan, there's no intention of replanting any trees along our property line with
And we
them.
spoke to the.
It was something that was recommended, something that we requested
So we've
before, when this
requested
was
it,
just a
right.
proposal before the town. We hosted members of the planning board here on our campus. We reviewed both the visual impact as well as the groundwater impact. It actually ironically was like in the midst of a drought in August where it hadn't rained in weeks, and there was still water rushing through our drainage here on campus. But obviously, none of that mattered, right? The decision was still made to move forward with it, and we really don't, unfortunately, it's a different town, it's a different county, it's a different electrical provider, so we don't really have much say. I can say, to Sam's point, now that the devastation of the deforestation has begun, many community residents have taken notice now, and several have reached out. Some think it's our property. It's certainly not our property. We had nothing. We actually fought it as much as we could. But there's certainly others in the community that are taking notice and beginning to write letters and reach out and to see what they can do to at least improve what's already started.
Yeah, and I think the board needs to take a stand too with Yorktown to say, listen, be a good neighbor. You know, all we're asking is a buffer between your property and ours so that our students and our community, when they come to an event here, we don't have to look at black panels and chain link fence as if we're in some kind of a God knows what. And the drainage, it's a simple fix. You know, when David walked Foothill with me, and showed me how that drain collects all the water running down Foothill, and then they direct it in this enormous pipe right there on the hill. And that's what's flooding us every time it rains. They can fix that. It's an easy fix. Connect it to your holding pond, you know, your retention pond that they're building. So I think it has force if the entire board, you know, does this and requests them to do those two simple acts. So I would request that the board think about that. You have what I sent you, you know, what's necessary, and it's a simple letter to all the agencies involved, the zoning, planning, and supervisor's office.
We could certainly revamp. The board did write a letter in opposition to it when it
Yes.
was in the planning phase, so I do know that the board has previously written a letter to
Definitely.
Yorktown regarding the proposed solar farm, so we can certainly revisit the language that was in that initial letter
That would be good.
in this one.
Okay.
That would be great. And then thirdly, the Board of Regents has recommended, and I believe now it is mandated, that males, there are 3 sports that males can ask to be part of that were considered female sports. Volleyball, I believe, is one. Jackie, do you know the others? It's volleyball.
We'll go to Ron. Our athletic director.
So, I can jump in. I won't put Rob on the
already
spot.
working.
Would you know what those 3 sports are?
So it's volleyball, field hockey, and cheerleading? Is the third one? I don't know who the third one is. But volleyball and field hockey for sure,
For sure.
are 2 of them. So first of all, they're not regulations. It's actually in public comments right now.
It is, yeah.
So I know it's in public
Which is
comment.
good.
There's been a lot of advocacy from the superintendents as well as boards and others, as the New York State Public High School Athletic Association has advocating. I have to believe that as it's written, it will change, because I think there's an unintended consequence of what
It's a huge consequence.
what was intended to be something affirming for transgender students became something almost discriminatory towards female athletes. And that is certainly not what the intention is, and it goes against much of what Title IX is meant to protect.
Exactly.
So I have to believe that the language will be clarified following the public comment phase.
Could you keep us posted on that,
Sure,
Dr. Love?
absolutely.
This is really
You will
important.
also get something from LHEC. They're drafting a position paper.
I saw that, yeah.
And asking people to send it to their legislators and the
I'm doing
New
it
York
as a
State-
private citizen.
Right.
I'm not in favor of this. And I'll tell you, you have a male who's, tends to be stronger and bigger, and that's an imposition on the female scholar athletes teams. It deprives these females from acquiring the status and the scholarships and the awards. Plus, it's a danger. You get a big guy going on a volleyball team or something like that, puts at risk the opposing team members. This is such a bizarre and nightmarish type of scenario. I don't know who thinks of this stuff up there. I get so frustrated from the bureaucracy that commands us down here. I do. Sorry.
So if we could go back to the trees for 1 second, I am in total favor of sending a letter for both the trees and the water situation. And I think that if that is the only thing left that we can do is to continue to send letters, because I'm sure that the district has exhausted all other avenues. This is about our value as a community, and it's about the children who come to school here. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. If those children have to look at what is a distraught scene, that's not okay for our kids. And as a parent who will have a child in every building this year, I don't want any campus to look disheveled, whether it's our property or not. And so I think that we should try again. I think that they need to realize the implications of the work that they've done. It does affect us, it does affect our children, and it affects our staff. This is a beautiful campus, and Dave does a tremendous job to make sure that it remains that way. This is out of our locus of control, but if we can continue to push and make enough noise, I do believe that maybe they will consider.
I agree.
And the water situation, I mean, especially if it's feasible and if it's easy and if it's doable,
It's an
it just
easy
makes
fix.
sense,
It is.
because Yorktown is one day maybe going to need us for something, and we would return the favor. I think it's just showing community to our children. So I'm in favor of writing both of those letters, for sure.
Okay. Any other comments?
Trees and drainage.
Yeah.
That's it? That's it. Her final words at the board are trees and drainage.
That's what she's going to be known for.
Dr. LaFew had said that, the district had sent a letter originally. I know the town did as well. If we can
Maybe we should
put
show up
something
at a board
together
meeting.
and send it to us, or if you'd like me to incorporate what David and I saw, I can do that in a form letter, whatever you think is more appropriate.
Yeah, I mean, I'll forward the original letter back to the board, and you guys, I guess, could use that as your starting point for the new letter.
I think it's important that Yorktown knows that, we're not happy with the current situation. There's nothing more we can do. The bell has rung up there on the hill. You're not going to put that toothpaste back in the tube. But certainly, we can put a buffer and redirect that water.
Okay.
Helen, it's been a pleasure to sit next to you for the last 3 years, and you will truly be missed. And I want to thank you for all of the input and all of your guidance that you have provided to the district for the children or the students. And it's been immeasurable. And Joe had alluded to it, your executive sessions. I think we may need to put a board of you there, just so put Hellenisms there. So you really brought a lot of insight.
Thank you. It's really been a great learning experience.
Helen did not want any attention tonight, so we had to do this.
I will miss you, Helen. I mean that. And I loved your candidness. I do. It's refreshing. We need more of that.
That's what I say.
So I just want to say that Helen was the first person to reach out to me from the board when I first got appointed, and it meant the world to me because I was really very nervous at doing something that I had never done before, and you kind of laid it down for me and showed me what it was all about, and I was really very grateful for that. So thank you for doing that. Thank you for welcoming me. And I agree, we need truth and boldness in this world. So
Yeah.
thank you.
My pleasure. Okay, motion to adjourn?
So moved?
Second.
Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, and hope to see you at graduation.